What's going on, Connor?
What's up, Sam? How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing well. I don't know if I have any intro material here.
We're going to a wedding tomorrow, so shout out to Matt and Sam. By the time you're listening to this, you'll already be married.
Yeah, that's kind of weird to think about, actually. Yeah, you'll be married by the time this hits your eardrums.
So let us be the last to can say congratulations.
And thank you for your service.
Yes. Semper Fi.
Yeah, we're going to a wedding. We're going to see a bunch of old drumline folks tomorrow, so that'll be fun probably. And then we're heading up to Lambie on Sunday for the Divisional playoff game against the Seattle Seahawks.
Hell yeah. Oh, and I think at one point we jokingly said, "Oh man," because I think Matt's a loyal listener of the program, and saying like, "Man, what if during dinner we just did a live show? That was our wedding present."
Damn, I was trying to remember. I was talking to Eric about all of our wedding present ideas, and I couldn't remember like any of them. We came up with a lot of good ones.
Oh yeah, it's like dumb shit. Like, oh, I got here's some toothpaste.
Here's a Jeep Wrangler spare tire.
The best one that I think we came up with was the here's a CD of Definitely the Experts' greatest hits.
It's just like really hard cuts of like saying stuff, like the pecan thing or goo goo gaga
from last week's episode. Yeah,
I had to go back and listen to that one for sure. I timestamped that.
Well, because I was thinking like, okay, I think
Joe
it's
Burrow makes me go goo goo gaga.
Yeah, it's too fucking late now to put the greatest hits together for them tomorrow. Maybe for another wedding we got coming up at some point. We got some other people getting married here yet this year. But I was thinking like, oh, okay, well, I'll get to town early, and then we can go do a photo shoot for the album art.
Perfect.
Just get some real intense, photos of yourself and me, just around town.
That's what we should have just done is given them we should have gone to a professional photo studio, gotten pictures of ourselves printed out, and then just given it to them in like a folder.
Get them like fat heads of ourselves.
Yeah, either that or just like straight up like pretty much like senior pictures. And give it to them.
If only we knew someone who was good with photography.
Yeah, if only.
If only.
Somebody.
Anyone.
Jep doesn't listen to this podcast.
Oh, damn it.
So anyway, let's get into the mix here right away. So the wild card games didn't turn out the way that anybody really thought they were going to. So I guess let's start with Buffalo-Houston.
Yeah, both these Saturday night games I didn't get to watch a ton of. I caught the end of the Buffalo-Houston game and then very, very little the beginning of the Tennessee-New England game. That Buffalo-Tennessee game, when I flipped it on, it was late in the fourth quarter, and it was bad. It was it was right at that series where Josh Allen took the sack on third down, and then on fourth and like 30, he took another sack, which inexcusable. Can't fucking do that on fourth down. And I got to see him do his crazy lateral thing that didn't make any goddamn sense, and they got real lucky with that play. So it was. I think I sent you the text. It was, oh man, nobody wants to win this game. This game should be cursed and should last forever, going to like 10 overtimes.
Yeah, I'm sure that's how a lot of people felt. Even Buffalo and Houston fans probably felt watching that fourth quarter play out. Because, yeah, it was the Bills' offense just, like, sputtering along. And, I mean, we can get into this a little bit, and a lot of talking heads have already made this point, but Josh Allen made plays to get Buffalo ahead, and then in the second half, I mean, it was really Josh Allen at, the tip of the spear, I guess, with crashing their offense straight into a ravine. It was painful to watch Josh Allen kind of, I guess, the weird lateral play, which, I mean, demonstrated a lack of awareness. of where they were in the game, because there was more than a minute left and they were well within field goal range. Like, no reason at all to do that. So between that and watching Buffalo's defense then dismantle the Houston Texans offensive line, it was really something. The Bills defense, I mentioned it to you when the game was going on. They were trying to drag that team into the divisional playoff, kicking and screaming, despite Josh Allen. And it was kind of sad to see them lose just because, their defense is really good. Like, it's the only thing that people talk about with the Buffalo Bills through this 2019 season, but they were legit. And it was kind of disappointing to see the offense sputter as much as it did, because it seemed like they had the playmakers on offense. They couldn't quite connect.
And one of the interesting things, I guess, kind of in retrospect, the big knock on Josh Allen coming out of Wyoming was lack of accuracy. Had a low completion percentage. I think a lot of people made the argument like, well, if he's not completing balls at a high rate against, playing for Wyoming against whoever they're playing in the Mountain West, it's tough to see that really drastically improving in the NFL. And that's really it. You see the arm talent, but it's the same thing that troubled him in college is biting him in the pros here. I think he was, I don't know. I think I want to say 30th, but he was pretty low in completion percentage this year again. So that's one of the things where scouts got it right on that one. Overall, though, he's still making plays out there, and it's obviously way too early to give up on him. He's shown enough good stuff to move on from Josh Allen, especially with what y'all invested in him. But I don't know. Scouting sometimes is right.
Yeah, absolutely. He needs to be a little bit more accurate, and I think having another offseason to refine his skills will do him some good. Perhaps even adding one more playmaker on in the receiving core. John Brown was excellent this year, stretching the field. Cole Beasley was a great possession receiver. Beyond that, though, they were kind of searching for another tool to use. They couldn't quite find any answers at tight end. And the wide receiver 3 spot was something that people sort of cycled through, especially after Zay Jones left the team. So I think adding one more person to complement that receiving core would do them a ton of justice. But I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that they have some people to pay. I checked the spot track thing the other day because I think that was the thing that I heard commentators talking about after the game, was that the Bills were going to have some problems trying to maintain the identity of their team just because they were going to have to let some people walk probably. So we'll see what happens. They addressed some offensive line issues this past offseason, namely signing Mitch Morse to a big old contract. It seems like their defensive identity is there, so that's not going away anytime soon. But we'll see. I don't know. Kind of wanted them to win just because they're the Buffalo Bills and they seem to be like the meme team of this generation, Bills Mafia. But I don't know. The Texans grinded it out too. Really, Deshaun Watson did.
Well, yeah, and that play he made at the end, I know everyone's probably analyzed that to death, but him just still, it's amazing. He's getting hit simultaneously by two guys and is able to get out of it.
Yeah.
And then just, find his receiver or his running back and make a play.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it was so weird to watch it happen. Like, yeah, the two guys that came on either side and just, yeah, their hits canceled each other out and just left Deshaun Watson standing there.
Yeah, I don't know. That's crazy. The return of the game also, we also on the other side with Houston's defense, we get the return of J.J. Watt, which I guess it sounds like in the first half didn't do much, but he was out there making plays in the second half, which was Cool to see JJ out there again. He's good.
Yeah. It was his first game back from his surgery, his torn pec, and he definitely made an impact. I mean, he was a little quiet at first, but I think was a real force coming off the edge for the Texans, and forcing pressure on Josh Allen. I mean, like we saw in that last series that you were just talking about, where he got sacked for a loss of like 1 billion yards. There's a ton of pressure, and I mean they were only rushing like 4 on that last one, because it was already 3rd and long, 4th and long, and so they weren't sending very many people, and it was. I mean, I texted you, but it was like, man, they're just running through him like a turnstile.
Yeah, that turnstile offensive line, that's no good. And stuff like what do you want to call it, turnstile? Or they're out there doing giving the lookout blocks. That one.
Yeah.
That was when I think it was high school football. I heard that one. Maybe I was younger. I don't know. But I thought that was really, really, really funny when I heard it the first time. When lookout block, what does that mean? Well, it's when you're blocking someone and then they get by you and you turn around and you yell, "Look out" to the quarterback. Yes. Very funny. Very funny, coach.
I remember, I think somebody said that at one point during a game, and I didn't know what it was, so I looked it up in Urban Dictionary. If you look it up in Urban Dictionary, I think you get a good gif of Kirk Cousins just getting fucking destroyed. I'll just send
I'm thinking of what team was that? There was the play. Boy, it might have been the Seahawks, but it was basically like the center snapped the ball and it was the Giants and Eli. Center snapped the ball and none of the offensive linemen moved.
Yes.
And yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. That is the hey, nobody did.
Oh, whoa!
Oh
Look out.
Yeah, this is a good gif of who's that? Brandon Sheriff playing right tackle. Just shit! There he goes.
Yeah. So in any case, it went into OT. Texans came out on top. So I mean that was that. Really, we talked about it last week, but I mean the AFC has a real, you have to go through a real grinder here in the divisional round in order to advance to the championship. They played the Chiefs on Sunday, and I mean, do you want to talk? We could talk about it now, I guess.
Well, let's do them in chronological order. Let's go to Tennessee, New England.
Okay, Tennessee, New England. Tennessee, New England was also not really I watched less of this game than the other game because I started watching it and saw very quickly that this was also going to be somewhat of an ugly game, because the weather conditions weren't great, and the Patriots offense just these last few weeks has been, just
bad.
Oh, not really bad. It feels like after these couple of seasons where we have been saying, I know for a fact I said it last year, that at the beginning of the season, I remember sitting in my bathroom at the University Avenue apartment, and I was like, I think the news came out. What was it? Who did the Patriots release? Not Demaryius Thomas. Maybe it was the Josh Gordon news that he was suspended. No, that was already... I don't know. In any case, I remember at the beginning of the football season, 2018, I was like, Jesus Christ, the Patriots have absolutely nothing in the receiving core. And they went on to obviously win the Super Bowl. So it felt like this year, after compounding all of those sentiments and then going into this season again with the same mentality, Jesus Christ, the Patriots have absolutely nobody at receiver. It finally... it felt like it all built up into these last couple of weeks, and we saw the results of that on the field. I know it's not what happened at all. It was more these receivers, like they're throwing like Jacoby Myers out there, and Keel Harry didn't develop because he was on IR for a giant portion of the season. Who else besides Julian Edelman was out there?
Yeah, I don't know. It's Julian Edelman and a bunch of people.
Julian Edelman, who's playing through like a just destroyed shoulder for the last like 6 weeks, still putting up monster numbers. You've got nobody at tight end, Matt Lacoste, and I forgot the name of the other dude. Yeah, I don't know.
Say Jacob Hollister, but that was last year.
Yeah, not Jacob Hollister.
Now he's with the Seahawks, but
yeah, and what I heard on one of my podcasts was, that like this has been like a thing before in New England, but they've always been able to rely on Rob Gronkowski when they've been thin at the receiving position, because obviously Rob Gronkowski is one of the greatest tight ends of all time. So even if you have bar nothing at the receiver position, having that to stretch the field will do wonders for your offense. But it really felt like they didn't figure out anything at the receiver position, and as a result, things suffered in the backfield. It never really felt like they had a set thing in the backfield either. They drafted Damian Harris out of Alabama, and I feel like he played very little this year. So it was that weird split backfield between Sony Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead. Nothing really happened there. So it all came to a head in this game against the Tennessee Titans, and frankly, they didn't have to do much except give the ball to Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry was just a monster and ran all over the Patriots, killed the clock. Speaking of killing the clock, we had that weird clock moment happen in this game, which everybody and their mom talked about after the game, because Bill Belichick pulled this on the Jets earlier this year, where it was 4th down, and the Tennessee Titans took a delay of game on purpose, and then took a false start and then the Patriots committed an offsides penalty, which the Titans, I think, were then able to commit another false start in order to drain 2 minutes off the clock by doing absolutely nothing.
And it sounds boring, but for some reason, watching that on TV and the broadcast, getting all excited about it, it is oddly entertaining to watch nothing happen.
Yeah, I really enjoyed them realizing what was happening, because they at first were really disappointed that they weren't going to try to go for it on 4th down, because they thought that punting it at that moment would, the surrender index was really high on that, and there was, you got to be able to put away the game when you can against the Patriots, and then all of a sudden the gears started turning, and it was like, oh, the clock's still running. And then you saw Bill Belichick starting to yell at the referees, and it was like, oh, something's happening.
That's so weird. I get it why Belichick's like all pissed over there and giving it to the sideline official, but like, bro, you fucking started this. You opened this Pandora's box.
Absolutely.
And it's even better that it's Vrabel, a Belichick guy who just, I feel like anytime, I've never not seen him, anytime they cut to him on the sideline, I've never seen him not looking just smug as hell.
Yes.
He has a very smug aura about himself.
Yeah, just kind of has that, he looks kind of unhappy all the time.
But also like, yeah, we're also unflappable and not going to get too excited here though.
Yes.
I'm just kind of mildly annoyed over here.
Yeah. Mildly annoyed is a good way to put it.
But yeah, Derrick Henry's really good. Ryan Tannehill's good enough, I guess.
Yeah, they didn't ask him to do much, and it was probably fine because the Patriots defense, you don't really want to throw on them with the players that they got in the secondary. But it really felt like, the the recipe for success was kind of get it to these big bodied dudes, which the Tennessee Titans have like 8 of them on their team, between Jonnu Smith, fucking AJ Brown, Derrick Henry. Like, all these dudes are like 6'5" and 300 pounds of pure muscle.
Oh, that's the thing. Like, I didn't realize Derrick Henry was as big as he is.
He's pretty big.
What is he? Is he like 6'7"?
He's not 6'7". He's 6'4".
Oh.
He's not like a basketball player. He's 6'4", but he's like 6'4" and like 240.
Well, that's still really that's really tall for a running back, though, isn't it?
It's very tall for a running back.
Where the hell did I hear 6'7"?
I don't know, but that's not right. He's not 6'7".
Okay, well, never mind. There's an interesting thing I heard. I was listening to another show, who shall remain nameless, because fuck him. And he brought up a good point that, what's the most amazing thing about, Derrick Henry with his size and athleticism was that he didn't get switched to another position. He didn't get switched to D end or something.
Yes. Managed to stay a running back.
Yeah. And the other thing was like, some of his high school stats came up, and this game log from high school was like, ran the ball 57 times for 500 yards and 9 touchdowns.
Whoop. Yeah.
As a senior in 2012 for Yulee, he ran the ball 462 times for 4,000 yards and 55 touchdowns for a 9.2 yards per carry.
I mean, you watch his high school, like the tape that they have on him. He's like a grown ass man, and it's like the scene from Benchwarmers where they get that like 20-year-old dude who hands the card to the ref, the umpire, and says "I am 12," and he's hitting dingers. Like, that's what it looked like in his high school film, because it's like, Jesus Christ, he's already like 6 feet tall and like made of pure muscle, and he's 16 or whatever. Like, this isn't fair. But yeah. I guess for a comparison, so Derrick Henry, according to Pro Football Reference, he's 6'3", but he's only 10 pounds under Dante Hightower,
the linebacker.
Yes. He is about as big as a large linebacker.
But he's fast as hell.
Yeah, but he's much faster. I mean, can you try, like, that's the thing, is like, usually linebackers are a little bit bigger than, the running backs, and that's why they're able to, when they get to that second level, your job is to stop this giant bowling, or not even a giant bowling ball, this fast bowling ball, who's normally hard to tackle because they're a little bit shorter and stockier. The prototypical running back.
Yeah.
No, this dude, he will stand straight up at his 6'3" frame, and he will walk all over you because he's as big as you.
Oh, I did not realize this, but we saw him. He ran for 147 yards and 3 touchdowns against Wisconsin in that game in 2015 down in Dallas.
Ooh. That sounds about right.
I mean, that's not terrible.
No.
But that was the first game of his Heisman Trophy winning season, so
you'll love to see it. The beginning of a great story.
Started
against Wisconsin.
Yeah, a 2,219-yard journey begins with a single step.
One shellacking. Yeah. So anyway, that was that game. It was, a lot of people, I think we both obviously said the Patriots because we thought there was some black magic left in that. But it wasn't super crazy. It wasn't in my opinion, the biggest upset of the weekend. The Tennessee Titans looked pretty hot going into the game, and the Patriots looked very much the opposite, losing to the Dolphins week 17.
Good segue into the next game, which is probably the biggest upset, the Vikings over the Saints.
Yeah, so this game was probably the most exciting because it had implications for our own situation this Sunday. So the Saints lost against the Vikings, and nobody expected this, including many Vikings fans. And yeah, it was nuts watching the game, man. It was crazy watching Drew Brees make these turnover-worthy throws. It was crazy that the Vikings pulled a pretty simple stunt and just rotated their defensive ends inside and generated pressure on the interior, which prevented Drew Brees from stepping up into the pocket, and that disrupted a ton of things for them. Led to him making a lot of off-kilter throws. The whole tempo of the offense felt just off the entire game. So they, it was an interesting game to watch.
Yeah, and it's weird watching a game where you have Kirk Cousins, Drew Brees, and Drew Brees is the third best quarterback.
Yeah,
because when Taysom Hill was out there, he was electric. He all he did was make plays, whether he was throwing, running, or catching.
Yeah, it was weird to see Taysom Hill. A lot of people made a point of it, but Taysom Hill came up big on a play, and then they put Drew Brees back in, and he fumbled.
Right.
And a lot of people point to that when they're talking about this, quarterback comparison situation, and the fact that Kirk Cousins showed up and he played well. I've mentioned it on here, and I was talking to you in the Facebook chat that I just didn't want Kirk Cousins in clutch time, but he proved the haters wrong for sure in this game.
That throw in overtime when he had pressure right up in his face and dropped it in the bucket to Adam Thielen on the goal line there.
That was money, dude.
That was right. That was a money throw, and then I don't know, throw a good fade route to Kyle Rudolph in the end zone to get the win.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. That was. Yep.
And a lot of people were complaining about that last touchdown, saying it was PI. I think that's a bunch of bullshit. I don't know. A lot of people were like, that should have been reviewed. There's no reason why it shouldn't have been. Saints got fucked on a PI call again, but I don't know, dude. I could understand the argument, I guess, but if you're gonna apply that argument to, the entire NFL, that means Michael Thomas isn't catching passes, DeAndre Hopkins isn't catching passes, all these dudes that are, these kinds of physical receiving threats, like, I didn't think it was egregious. I thought it was
borderline.
Yeah.
And it was close, so when knowing what we know about PI being reviewed this season, there was no way they could possibly overturn it, so I'm fine with them not reviewing it because they damn should not have, based on the precedent they've set for reviewing PI, there's no way they should have overturned that anyways. I don't have to review. So, whatever. Skip the step. Move on. It's not like it was not nearly as egregious as the one last year against the Rams.
No. Certainly not.
There was plenty more egregious PI calls that were not overturned that were reviewed throughout the regular season.
Yeah. I watched a good highlight video, I think, sometime this week, it was like the NFL refs are fucking terrible. And it brought up the one in the Eagles game that I hadn't seen, I think, since I watched that highlight following that game.
Now, which one was that? Was that the one there? Because there was two that were reviewed in that game. There was one for the Packers and one for the Eagles.
Right. It was the one. It was the one where the Eagles were covering Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Okay. Which I think was the more egregious of the two, but I could be wrong. I don't remember. I remember that coming up and watching the replay, like, yeah, I think that's probably worth a look, and I guess it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Looking back on it now, not great. So yeah, I guess by that standard, it was certainly less than that. So I don't know. I don't know what you do about that. But in any case, I mean, the Saints' offense looked anemic. Alvin Kamara had
nothing, man.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I don't know. I forgot what it was. It was like, I want to say it was under 20 yards, but I could be wrong on that.
It might have been more than that, but
it wasn't many.
Whatever it was a quiet. He wasn't out there making plays. Like Dalvin Cook, on the other hand, was...
It was 7 for 21. It was just over 20.
Well, fine. With Dalvin Cook on the other... Did Dalvin Cook go for over 100?
Dalvin Cook had 94 yards, 28 carries for
close.
94, 2 touchdowns.
In that first half, I mean, they were ripping off, 10-yard chunk runs consistently. That was the most noteworthy thing I think about the first half was just how effective the Vikings run game was.
Yeah, I mean, well, Alexander Mattison added 5 carries for 20, so he averaged 4 a carry. So I mean Yeah, they were able to run on the Saints, which was huge for the Vikings, and I think that'll be huge coming up to their matchup against the Niners, whether or not they're able to run the ball effectively. Because it's the identity of the Minnesota Vikings and Mike Zimmer. It's that Kevin Stefanski offense. It's run first. I mean, this is a ridiculous amount of carries that they had. 28 carries and then 5 carries, another carry here for Amir Abdullah. Holy shit, man.
And it worked.
You know what? Okay, so I got to plug this real quick. Did you listen to the part of my take today?
Yes, with Warren Sharp.
What did you think about Warren Sharp?
Have you heard him before on the show?
No, I don't think so.
He's been on before, and he's really good.
Okay.
He's kind of a dry personality, I think, but I think the content's really, really good.
Okay. I like some of it. Some of it I wasn't a huge proponent of. Like his stat where it was like when the Minnesota Vikings run the ball 30 times or more, they're whatever their record. And it's like, well, yeah. You got to assume.
I thought there's a lot of good stuff in there. Like there's the one when Aaron Rodgers at home when he has a lead at halftime is like 62-1-1, and Russell Wilson in his whole career anywhere is like 59-7 when leading at half.
Yeah.
So basically, it's a 1/2 game on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
All the stuff when he rattled off, like, well, the Packers' secondary is better. Their pass defense is better than the run defense, but here are all the quarterbacks they've played since week 7.
Right. Well, exactly. That was kind of, he pointed that out, and it was like, well, that's kind of the problem I have with all of these, like, little quick facts is, like, I understand what you're trying to say, but this all screams, like, correlation causation error. Like, you're making these claims, and it's like, okay, you're not saying anything or even hypothesizing anything from these facts, but I mean, you're certainly trying to like delineate, a theory about what you're throwing out here. So it was like, yeah, the Aaron Rodgers one. It's like, well, okay, I guess, but I don't know. There are a ton of other factors that go into that, obviously. And the same thing with the Russell Wilson one. I guess those ones didn't bother me as much as the Vikings one when he said running the ball, and it's like, well, yeah, they're like, I'm shocked that a team that runs the ball 30 plus times has won a ton of their games because that's what you do when you're winning.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess that's probably not a good indicator that's backwards. That's not an indicator of success. That's usually a product of it.
Right. I shouldn't. I sound really sour about his presence on the podcast. I thought it was nice. Like I think you got
to go back and listen to. There's one or two other ones. The first time he was on, I think I was driving down to Madison for something, but I think it was back before the season started, and it was wow. I was blown away.
Okay.
I don't remember why, but it was good. And that's where he was talking about, I think, the future. or no, he was talking more generally about trends that you should do. Wasn't looking at any games in particular games, but smarter football. Hey, you should not run the ball first down, second down, and then throw on third and long. You should just try and bypass. Or what successful teams are trying to do are, how do you get really good at third downs is just to skip third down and just convert your first downs on second down. Just bypass third down altogether.
Oh.
Seems.
Oh, okay.
Oh, huh. That makes sense. And how you do that, you got to throw more on first down. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to go back and probably or look up some stuff on his like Sharp Football.
Yeah.
Website.
Also, I guess he's like apparently this is the first time he was on too. He said, apparently he's a consultant for like 8 teams. I assume just doing this stuff like, hey, trend says XYZ. Out of 11 personnel, do this. Or when Patrick Mahomes goes, the Patrick Mahomes stuff I thought was really interesting.
Oh, where he was talking about throwing into zone and man.
Yeah, where man he was so much less effective. But what he was successful in doing man was throwing it short underneath routes.
Yeah,
and letting receivers do stuff after the catch. Makes sense.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed that stuff too, and it was weird because it all came back to me because I remember them talking about the same sort of thing, following that Colts game that they referenced a ton. Mm-hmm. It was like, oh yeah, that's right. It's like I remember this all came up when they were talking about that, and I think these like passing percentages definitely came up at that point, and it was like I remember because they had the same thing where it's like everybody was assuming that the Chiefs have all these super speedy dudes, so all Pat Mahomes has to do is air it out to this guy, and he's got like 80 feet of separation. So you just assume that when he's throwing against man that he's way more effective because, well, yeah, they're all fast. They're going to beat these dudes, but it's not quite what's going on.
Yeah, there's
actually kind of the opposite.
That would be the case if you're playing Madden, where speed is OP. Like older Madden games, I don't know, maybe newer Madden games too.
Even newer Madden games, dude.
Yeah, speed is way overpowered. But so the counter to that would be, okay, well then don't throw deep, just throw crossing routes underneath, and that should create some natural picks, and then you get Tyreek Hill across the middle with a trailing defender. Good luck.
Right.
And it sounds like that's what they do, and they get lots of yards after catch. So.
Bada bing, bada boom.
That's football, baby.
That's football. So anyway, we kind of got off the Saints Vikings a little bit there, but certainly the biggest upset in our opinion, and that brought us to Eagles and Seahawks.
This was the ugliest game of the weekend.
This was a backbreaker for the Eagles because they lost Carson Wentz in the first quarter. From a hit by Jadeveon Clowney, and that put Josh McCown at the helm of an already terribly injury-riddled Eagles team on both sides of the ball.
And somehow they get more injured even though their season's over because it comes out today that McCown played with a torn hamstring.
I read that, and I felt like after everything, like having watched the end of that game where he tried to run up the middle of that break in the pocket, get some yards on that fourth down and get into the end zone with the open lane. But just did not have the speed at all. It was like, oh my goodness, like this dude was willing to put it all on the line at 40 years old, torn hamstring off the bone, and was still running out there trying to make plays like that. And then, after the game, he was very emotional about it because I think they said it was the first playoff game he's ever played in.
Yeah. So,
I can only imagine the kind of pain that he felt on a play like that where it was his body just gave out on him from like a very, not like his body gave out on him because he's 40 years old and can't move like that. Like his body physically broke down. And, he tried all the way up until the end and just couldn't do it. And I mean, he kept them in the game. Like they weren't out of it.
Ball. They had three opportunities there at the end of the game. They got the ball down in the 3 possessions inside, I don't know, deep into plus territory, and all 3 times came short on 4th downs.
Yeah. So it
twice, I don't know.
Yeah. It sucked for Eagles fans, but I mean, I don't know. That injury-riddled team was playing on borrowed time at that point. It was amazing the run that they had with the team that they had left. And it was cool to see people like Greg Ward, who was an undrafted free agent, step into the lineup after their top 3 wide receivers all went down. And this dude kind of showed out down the course of this back half of the season, and emerged as a real threat for them.
Former AAF star.
Yeah. Forgot he played in the AAF.
Yeah. Who did he play for? San Antonio?
I don't remember. Let me look it up real quick.
I'm picturing him playing. Wearing a red 84 in the AAF for, I think the San Antonio Renegades or whatever. They were the only red team. Whatever, it doesn't matter.
San Antonio, yeah.
That was my team.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know. The Seahawks, they have their own injury problems. Namely, their backfield is comprised of an ancient Marshawn Lynch and Travis Homer. Robert Turbin's also back there. I didn't see him play.
I haven't seen him play in 2 games.
He's also ancient. So, I mean, that's obviously a big concern for them, having their top 3 running backs go down all in like the last 2 games of the season. I mean, talk about unfortunate. So, yeah, they came out on top. They were the better team. There wasn't really a whole lot else to deduce from this game other than
DK Metcalf's really good. That's what I deduced.
He's fast, and I mean it's tough. I mean, people were talking about it because it was like, Jesus Christ. I mean, you knew exactly what this dude was gonna do, and he burned him anyway. Like this dude, he has this vertical speed. He's extremely, muscular. He can make these contested catches because he's so strong and big. So he's running these go routes, these inside post routes. You know exactly what he's gonna do. Some slants. Like his wheelhouse is not very big because everybody made fun of him for his 3-cone drill time. They know that he can't turn on a dime or has this extremely complex route tree, but he's just extremely athletically gifted.
The thing about his 3-cone time is that I saw, everybody made the comparison. Oh, it was worse than Tom Brady's. But it was in like the same ballpark though as I want to say Doug Baldwin and somebody else, some other noteworthy receiver, maybe T.Y. Hilton. That might not be right, but there's other successful receivers that it's not like he had a complete shit 3-cone time that no receivers ever had before, which I guess I assumed he did, but compared to some other successful receivers, he's not in terrible company.
Yeah,
and certainly it seems like through a full season in a playoff game, that he can play in this league. That last throw that was I don't know, it just looked sweet as hell how effortless that was. Just go up and high point that ball and on that 3rd down play and just I don't know, it looked so effortless for this large man to go up and get it.
Yeah, I mean, he made it look like nothing, which. I mean, it was incredible. Yeah, I mean there were 2 dudes on him all the time, and I mean he burned them both. So yeah, it was he was the shining star of the game for sure. And I mean, people are already kind of looking at him and what he's going to develop into. He's certainly stepped into this wide receiver 2 role nicely following the departure of Doug Baldwin. And some people are even looking at him emerging as possibly the wide receiver 1 come next season.
Yeah, and it's funny you say he was the star of the game because, as fate would have it, guess who I picked for my captain slot for my DFS lineup for that game?
Yeah, it was DK.
Yeah, that was a good call by me. I think I was the only person in my 23-person game that picked him for that slot. So that definitely paid out well for me. And yeah, I've been on a fucking hot streak with these DFS games, man. I came in first in this double up, this cash game for the Seattle Philly game. Came in third for the same deal for the Minnesota game. And then I came in like first, I think, last week for a Week 17 game. Whew. So I'm on a hot streak with these cash games for these showdown matches.
Hot.
And then I lost 101-0 to you because I forgot to draft people like you did the week before.
Yeah.
So damn it. So we're gonna have to collect some more winnings this week and have a fun DFS time.
And go at it.
Also, we don't do DFS as Packers employees.
No gambling here.
No.
Well, we do DFS, but we don't gamble anything. It's just a contest. There's no money on it.
Well, there's money exchange in these games I'm playing. Not with you though.
No, there isn't. There's no money exchange.
Oh. Well, right. That's not gambled. I should say it's all a game of skill.
That's right.
Of which my employment status with the Green Bay Packers has no bearing on.
All right, so let's get into the divisional playoff games here. So, I guess where do we want to start? We want to start the AFC. Titans,
Sure.
Chiefs.
Titans. No, Titans. Bengals, not the Bengals. Baltimore.
Yes, that's what I meant. Woof.
Baltimore's gonna roll in this one. I'm feeling it.
I mean, it's so tough to see. Every time I've watched Baltimore this year, they've just been unstoppable. I understand that the Titans.
With Derrick Henry being and the Titans being hot, I think it might be easy to they're hot coming in this game, but the goddamn Ravens are 14-2 for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to watch these teams just run the ball like a collective 80 times in this game, but
and the game be over in two hours.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I mean, it'll be interesting if Mark Ingram plays or not. A lot of people are discounting his whole role in the Ravens offense, but I mean, Mark Ingram's been playing like a stud this year, and a lot of people are saying Gus Edwards is next man up and can do just as good of a job. I mean, we'll see. Maybe. But I think it'll come down to
not, but if not, whatever. I think they'll be all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Lamar Jackson, I think, is he's got too many weapons in the offense for the Titans to handle. I think that between Marquise Brown, Mark Andrews, Willie Snead, I mean, there's just too many dudes out there for that Titans secondary to shut down, while trying to keep up with how fast he is.
Yeah, and if the Ravens get out to a hot start, which if there's any downside to them being off the last basically 2 or 3 weeks now at this point, with how far ahead they were at the end of the regular season, if they can avoid getting off to a slow start and then they get ahead, that the Titans team not built to come from behind, they're built to run the ball. Derrick Henry we were just talking about, and that would also open up if they're behind. And you start throwing the ball more, you're going right into that teeth of that Baltimore defense, thrown into that strong secondary. So if Baltimore can just avoid a slow start, they should be able to cruise in this one, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. That was an important point that was made, that it's how Baltimore has really been able to pick apart a lot of teams. Is they go up early quickly, and then that forces the other team to immediately start to search for those chunk plays, which leads to them creating turnover-worthy plays because they're throwing into the teeth of Earl Thomas and, oh my goodness, what's his name? Marcus Peters.
Benet Ben Wickery.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a recipe that they've already used on teams this year. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out exactly. It'll be interesting if the Titans are able to stick with it, I should say. So we'll see. We'll see how it shakes out. A lot of people, I mean, just assume Baltimore's going to roll. I'm certainly not totally averse to that opinion. So let's move to the other AFC game. Oh,
Houston, Kansas City.
Yeah. So, yeah. This game, I think, will be a little bit more interesting to watch if you're, I guess, if you like Smash Mouth football, it might be more interesting to watch the other game.
This is very much arena football outside.
Yeah. This is going to be airing it
closer to
out
that.
all day. So, yeah, this game, it'll be interesting to see how they keep pace with each other in the passing game. So, I mean, the Chiefs, we haven't seen them play in a minute, but, I mean, they have a lot of weapons that they can use to exploit the weak Texans secondary. I'm not totally convinced that the Houston Texans have the firepower to compete with the Chiefs because I think that's similar to the Ravens. The Chiefs are going to roll out hot right from the get-go, and it's going to be a game of, can your offense keep up with the other one?
And the only thing, I agree, the only thing that Texans, if Deshaun Watson gets hot and Deshaun Watson to DeAndre Hopkins, if that connection for whatever reason is just in fuego, those two dudes that could essentially keep them in this game, I would think. I'm looking at here the spread being Chiefs favored by 10. That seems like a lot though. But also counterpoint to that, Andy Reid after a bye is like undefeated in his entire life. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, the big thing I think that I looked at down the stretch with the Chiefs, their secondary is actually playing really well.
yes,
Like their run defense maybe isn't anything to necessarily write home about, but their secondary was playing pretty good against some pretty solid teams. They moved Tyrann Mathieu down into the slot, which has changed a lot of things with how teams approach the Chiefs now. They had a strong perimeter, situation already from pretty early in the season. Moving Tyrann Mathieu, though, down in the slot has made them even more capable. So it'll be interesting. I mean, obviously, DeAndre Hopkins, he's a superstar wide receiver. Asking people to cover him, it's a tall order. But I mean, really, the game changer that a lot of people were looking at was, whether or not Will Fuller was available for the last game. Being the secondary, the wide receiver 2 that can stretch the field against, the secondary option at defensive back. I think that the Chiefs have the answer to, the tertiary secondary options that the Texans have. And after you get past Will Fuller on that team, I mean, Kiki QT never really stepped up this year. We haven't really seen a ton of other options from the Texans aside from that. Carlos Hyde is Carlos Hyde. So I don't know. I mean, we know that Deshaun Watson is a budding star in the making, and DeAndre Hopkins already is a superstar. So, I mean, I think if the Chiefs can limit that production and prevent any big chunk plays happening between those two, and as long as you can maintain some solid coverage on Will Fuller, I mean, I don't know. I think that the Texans are going to require huge plays from DeAndre Hopkins and or Will Fuller, and I think that the Chiefs have the capability in order to prevent those big plays from happening. So I don't know.
At worst case scenario, okay, well, if they make big plays, you got the big play offense on the other side. So,
well, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like
if
they almost need those.
You feel okay about it if you're the Chiefs,
right? Like the Texans need those big plays to happen because without that, they really don't have a whole lot else. Like you certainly can't really hang your hat on that rush, the running game from Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson. It just doesn't really seem to be. I'm not saying that they're not capable as running backs, but it just doesn't really seem like it's very well built into the identity of this Texans offense. Like they both very much function the same way that Lamar Miller did before he went out. Like he's there, he's going to get 20 carries or whatever, but it's going to be 20 carries for like 85 yards and maybe a touchdown.
Yeah, well, big deal. Not really have a large impact.
No, it's more, maintaining integrity and balance between the running game and, what's going through the air. So anyway, I don't know. I think you're right. 10 points is huge between these teams.
I don't like that line at all.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about that, but I think that the Chiefs are going to be able to limit some of this big stuff that the Texans have been able to take advantage of from other teams. I think that the Chiefs are a little bit more capable. So, and especially coming off of a bye, I mean, huge advantage because they're able to rest all their dudes, get back some guys that they were missing. Yeah. We'll see, though. We'll see. Moving to the NFC. So we've got Vikings-Niners.
Which on paper, or I don't know, maybe not on paper, just gut feel, first thought, first blush, Vikings have no chance in this game. But maybe they do.
Yeah, maybe they do.
In other words, I don't know. I think that 49ers will probably win. Strength of 49ers is their running game on offense, and the weakness of the Vikings is their run defense. So that obviously doesn't bode well for the Vikings, but it's more than just that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what we just talked about with the Chiefs against the Texans, where just having that extra week to rest up, I mean, they are going to be able to bring in a lot of people that they were missing. They're able to bring back D Ford, Jaquiski Tart in the secondary.
They're getting back their linebacker. Who is it?
Quan Alexander.
Yes.
Yeah. Those three people, adding those playmakers, oh, goodness, what was it? I was just listening to the podcast, I think, today on it. I think when all three of those guys were in the defensive unit, which they were for the first 8 games of the season, I think they were on average able to limit opposing offenses to 12 points. So getting back all of those guys and having a stacked defensive unit, I mean, yeah, the Vikings, the Saints were certainly no joke to play against, but I mean, they were missing two pretty key defensive linemen in Marcus Davenport and Sheldon Rankins, which allowed Dalvin Cook to exploit them a little bit. And Mike Zimmer was able to play to his strengths. This game, I don't know if you're going to be able to do that quite as much. I mean, we saw Kirk Cousins light up the Saints last week, and he's pretty much going to need to do that this week against an even tougher secondary.
And an even tougher pass rush.
Yes. Everything is elevated. It's like, I think like when the analysts were talking about this, it was very impressive that the Vikings were able to go into the Superdome and beat a tough defensive unit, but the 49ers are an even more complete defensive unit, and they have to go to San Francisco now.
Play a team coming off a bye week, so everything's stacked against them. The only thing that will be not as elevated is just the atmosphere playing on the road. Tough to beat the Superdome.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's all worse for the Vikings.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know. It's like I'm looking at this and it's like, oh my goodness. I think that, I mean, the Vikings defense is going to have to play like absolute studs, which they were able to limit the Saints' production a ton. And they schemed a lot of interesting stuff in order to prevent the Saints from exploiting them the way that I thought for sure that they were going to get exploited. And so, I mean, they're going to have to come up with something, particularly at the slot position. They are missing Mackenzie Alexander right now. And I think in the slot, we're seeing Emmanuel Sanders sitting there. Kendrick Bourne, I think. So, and Deebo Samuel is a guy that's been emerging on the outside, and he might get matched up with Xavier Rhodes, who's been a total train wreck this whole season, really, but especially on this back half of the season, he's gotten burned a lot. So Jimmy Garoppolo isn't necessarily a savant at the quarterback position, but he doesn't really make a ton of mistakes. So
I think that you hit the nail on the head there. As long as they're able to run the ball effectively, which you figure they should be able to, as their calling card, and as long as Jimmy Garoppolo is efficient and just doesn't make any mistakes, doesn't necessarily need to win him the game, 49ers should be good enough to win the game sans Jimmy Garoppolo playing.
Was
great.
Part of my take the one where they talked about the 2-1 formation?
21 personnel?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah,
21.
probably.
Oh, yeah, where the Niners are the unit that use 21 personnel the most in the NFL, and the Vikings are the bottom at defending against 21 personnel.
Yes. Strength versus weakness. Doesn't bode well for the Vikings.
Yeah, that was something that stood out to me in particular.
And it's not just any 21 personnel. It's a running back, okay, and then probably one of the better fullbacks, blocking fullbacks, in Kyle Juszczyk, and one of the more impressive blocking tight ends, also receiving tight ends, George Kittle. So it's not just any old tight end and any old fullback or second running back out there. It's two of the best at running the bud blocking.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, that's it's pretty easy to put the pieces together especially when you spell it out like that. There's no reason why they aren't the team that's running it the most, because they have one of the best fullbacks in the league, Kyle Juszczyk, and one of the best tight ends, George Kittle, to run this out of. And so when they're able to cycle through their myriad of running backs, I mean, it seems like they've got fresh legs back there all the time. Or the hot hand that they can use, whoever at any stretch of the season is the most capable. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. It'd be
All
cool
that,
to see the Vikings in the championship game.
Yes, because yeah, and it's all setting ourselves up for like, well, if the Packers win and the Vikings somehow solve this puzzle, which everything we said sounds impossible. Really just trying to twist my mind into thinking, yeah, maybe the Vikings got a chance in this one, so the Packers can have a home NFC Championship game possibly.
Yeah,
which would be great. That would be fantastic.
Be a lot of fun.
Yes. To go and be the sacrificial lamb to the Baltimore Ravens in Miami.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Man. Yeah. So.
But first things first.
Yeah. I don't know. That's really it. I don't really have it. We kind of talked about what, in my opinion, is, the big check marks for this game.
Yep.
So moving on to the last one, Packers Seahawks.
The game we really care about here.
Yeah. And this one is interesting in the sense that both teams are playing with records that don't necessarily indicate how bad they are.
They're. What was that thing I sent you maybe a week ago or so? The Packers are like their projected win total based on all the analytics for their season is like 9 wins, and they have 13, so they're like +4. So they're won a lot more games than they probably should have.
Yeah.
Which feels right. That feels dead on.
Yeah. They're
they're
winning some games here that they maybe shouldn't have. And
like both. Oh yeah, my coworker told me this stat. Like the Packers are the only team to sweep a divisional opponent while leading 0 minutes of both games.
Yes. That's a good one.
Winning on last-second field goals against the Lions both games. Not really deserving to win either of those games. Those are both like stolen wins.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. There's a couple of things going into this game. Namely that there's 2 quarterbacks in this game who both have extraordinary playmaking ability, and neither quarterback is a quarterback you really want to run into when you're in the playoffs here, because they just have this inane capability to elevate their team. So watching this matchup is going to be interesting because I think that they're both going to have to turn it on for the sake of their team advancing to the next round here. But I mean, really, I guess I like the Packers in this game. Because as of late, this Detroit game really throws a wrench in things because that game was so fucking terrible. But if we were looking at like the Vikings game, what the Packers were able to do defensively, if that defensive unit can show up in this playoff game, I think that they'll be able to limit the Seahawks' offensive capabilities just enough to allow the Packers to exploit the Seahawks defense utilizing, the old reliable Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. I don't think the Seahawks have a very good run defense. The Packers don't have a very good run defense either, but Aaron Jones is markedly better than Travis Homer and or Marshawn Lynch at the age that he is now.
The Packers running back situation leaps and bounds ahead of what the Seahawks are left with here.
Correct. And in the secondary, the Packers secondary, I would say, although they haven't been, they've been fairly middle of the road after getting off to a hot start. I think that while we just got done raving about DK Metcalf and his athletic capabilities, I think that the Packers unit is a little bit better than what the Eagles were throwing out there for their wild card game. So just being able to limit some of those big plays, I mean, as long as they can do that, which, we've got Kevin King back there who's been susceptible to that, but we've also got Adrian Amos back there who's been the definition of a safe safety. So, being able to limit those big plays is something that'll be key in this game because I think that if the Seahawks aren't able to do that, I mean, their running game is anemic at best. So being able to stop them from chunking down the field with, these 40-yard bombs that we saw at the tail end of that Eagles game, being able to limit the number of those that happen is going to be huge. And I think that we'll be able to take care of business on the other side of the ball as long as we're able to, utilize the dimensions of our offense that have proven to be the most successful. We finished talking about it the other week where we were saying that Aaron Jones is just about wide receiver 2 in this offense.
That's right.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the go-to, though. I don't think there's any reason to divert from the game plan there. I don't think the Seahawks are, I don't think they're terrible, but I think that Aaron Jones is swifty and elusive enough to operate, as a receiver out of the backfield. He's certainly more than capable of holding the running game afloat. It's going to be huge if Jamal Williams can play. I don't know. I did not check on his injury status. But being able to have
everybody's pretty healthy.
I hope so after a week off here.
Yeah, and he didn't play week 17 either.
And we're returning Brian Bulaga, which is huge.
Yes. Oh, yes. That was the one when he went down in that Detroit game. I was very nervous and very thankful for this bye week especially for him. There's a stat I saw that was the Packers with Aaron Jones on the field are like a top 10 offense, and when he's off the field and you have Jamal Williams in there, the Packers have like a 30th ranked offense. And so I think Matt LaFleur was conscious about not completely spending Aaron Jones and making sure there was some load management, to use the NBA term, to get through the entire season. Well, mission accomplished this season. I think you got to take the reins off Aaron Jones. He's got to be out there like 85% of the snaps.
Yeah, that's actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that because I was thinking the same thing when somebody on one of these fantasy podcasts who clearly doesn't watch a whole lot of Green Bay football was complaining about the Aaron Jones and the usage, and that was it was a recurring topic for under Mike McCarthy. And watching a few of these games, though, it seemed pretty deliberate, like how Matt LaFleur was using Jamal Williams. He wasn't in on like a ton of like important drives. It was like just enough where you could notice that it was like, oh, Aaron Jones just came off of a big series, or Aaron Jones was, this drive started at like the 15 and he's been chunking his way up the field. Put Jamal Williams in there on 3rd and 2. It was like, okay, I understand what's going on here. Yeah, this is like NBA load management. Like, we're just not giving Aaron Jones the ball because we don't really need to. We don't really need to send him in on a halfback dive on 3rd and 2. Jamal Williams can do that. He's capable. Do I want there to be like a 50-50 split? Like, not really. But, he's good enough to provide relief for Aaron Jones so that, when we get to the playoffs here, we can hopefully stick him in to the lineup on 85% of the offensive snaps.
Yeah, and it felt like in the previous regime with Mike McCarthy, I don't know. This is just me shooting from the hip, but as this season where it seemed like there was a deliberate and intelligent, conscious effort to not spend all Aaron Jones' his effort and wear him down here through the course of the regular season. That didn't necessarily feel like the case in 2018, when he was averaging 5 yards a carry, and just it almost just felt like they refused to use him. Not necessarily, obviously not saving for the playoffs, so they didn't make the playoffs, but the usage rate was bad then, and didn't seem like it was purposefully done.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear in this season that things are a lot different in how they're designed around Aaron Jones rather than an offense that is designed and then Aaron Jones is placed in it. It's very clear that Aaron Jones has been a focal point of the offense, and a huge proponent of that has been him being utilized in the passing game because the Packers' passing offense is a little lacking beyond Devontae Adams, or I guess behind Devontae Adams, and that's been a recurring theme through the whole season until recently. Allen Lazard has kind of stepped up, and he got quite a few targets these last couple of games. But leading up to that, Aaron Jones was essentially wide receiver number 2, and it's been effective. So it's something that it wasn't great to see because we're used to the Packers having another guy there, but it was effective, and it has been effective having a receiving back that can kind of do it all.
And at this point, we got what you got. You gotta go with what you got you here. So
right, it's kind of the don't get cute kind of mentality at this point. It's you everybody knows what you have, and you know what you have, so
you gotta shoot your shot now.
Pretty much.
You got what you got, and you just gave me I brought back some bad memories. Don't get cute, it only happened, I think, really in the one game, in that Eagles game, where Matt LaFleur got cute on the goal line. But man,
try to throw it three times.
That's stuck in the back of my head, like he's gonna screw this up. We're gonna be on the goal line, and we're gonna call some cute little quick screens out to the receivers, or try and get a little pop pass, and we're not gonna do anything. Just fucking don't overthink it. Just give Jamal Williams the ball up the middle.
Kinda. I think he learned his lesson after that game. I can't say for sure because obviously this is the first time that Matt LaFleur is making a run into the playoffs as a head coach, so we have nothing to draw upon really. But I mean, we'll see, man. I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, a lot of people have been pointing at Aaron Rodgers, and this is one of his worst career statistically. One of his statistically worst career years that he's had. And I think he's pretty aware of that, judging from his press conference statements. But, I mean, playoffs are completely different. So we'll see what shakes out.
Yeah, whatever. Right? He's had playoff success, so we'll roll with that. It's a proven commodity.
Yeah.
I'll take a 85% Aaron Rodgers over, some of these other dudes.
What if he was whiffing on those throws in Week 17 on purpose?
Oh, he's sandbagging.
Oof.
Oh, maybe he's playing chess out there.
Yeah, 4D chess.
Yeah, he's gonna come out and just go like 29-30, like that Drew Brees game he had. A few weeks back.
Just gonna light him up.
Honestly, that would be just a lot of fun if we're living in fantasy land. Just like, it's gonna be a blowout, 42-17. just no stress. Just up 21-0 after the first quarter, and
way over the spread.
Yep, never in doubt. Only have to play starters. Only have to play 3 quarters. Vikings win, and they get banged up.
Yeah, right. Dalvin Cook goes down.
Yeah. Coast into the Super Bowl.
Get smashed by the Ravens.
Yeah. So that's my objective opinion.
Very scientific. I don't know. I mean, I'm excited for the game. It should be a good one. And then I mean, after that, we have an endless offseason to talk about free agency and the draft, so it's always great, too.
And look through old rosters.
I know, yeah, just like, I forgot what we even did last year, dude. Like, I don't even remember what we talked about because I didn't really pay attention to college basketball. And, like, we must have done something, but...
we'll do something again this year, too.
Yeah, I mean, there's already articles coming out with, like, free agent profiles and, like, it's there's already off-season material to digest and stuff that I've already been kind of digging into. I already listened to part of a podcast where people talked about a mock draft. I listened to not even the entire thing because it was like, this is so pointless. Like they were like, this is they were pretty open about how pointless it was. They were like, this is a good exercise in, like, you know, having your bearings of how the season went. Like, if you hadn't paid attention to X number of teams or whatever down the stretch here, this is useful because now you have a recap of everything that happened and, like, where things lie after the 2019 season is done. But there's obviously a ton of stuff that happens in the offseason and the draft. So, like...
And that's really the thing. The mock drafts, like, to read them is fine. Obviously none of them are ever going to be right past, like, the first pick or two. But just to familiarize myself with the names is really... I don't know. That's probably what everybody does, but I don't know. That was something that a little while back I just kind of dawned on me. It's like, I shouldn't take this as gospel for what this guy thinks the draft's actually going to be, but just like, hey, here's a bunch of guys that are probably going to go early in some order. Maybe this way, probably not. But here's a quick little paragraph about each of these dudes.
Yeah.
So I can say when Andre Dillard comes up, like, oh, that's my guy. Because I read a paragraph about him.
Yeah,
and then
I agree.
Watch him play, later this season and be like, he's not very good.
Surprisingly.
Oh, good. They didn't pick him.
Yeah, I mean, getting familiar because it's like I don't know who pays attention to the offensive tackle position rankings through the course of the season.
I sure don't.
Nobody does. So all these names are brand new. So yeah, like you said, getting familiar with some of these guys. I think what I look at specifically are a lot of people who are like, oh, this is a X position heavy draft.
Like this year's going to be receiver heavy.
Right. Or, so what does that mean exactly? It's like, beyond there being a lot of talented wide receivers, does this mean that teams will forego choosing like defensive backs in the first round? Or, will they not choose to, like last year, there were a lot of defensive linemen in the draft. So we saw a lot of people fall into the late second round, the late first round, early second round. And some people like Dexter Lawrence went real late to the Giants after a lot of people had him as a top 10 pick. So it's analyzing some of those things and making predictions about how some of these position groups might shake out. It's obviously a lot of fun to watch where some of these big play skill position players end up. Like, obviously, quarterback is exciting and wide receiver is exciting, running back. It's cool to see these dudes that are going to be like, faces
Fantasy
of franchises.
dudes. Yeah.
But it is also cool to see, like, okay, well, if this is how it shifts, then, we're looking at some of these guys maybe being available when we come up to draft in, the fourth round or the fifth round or whatever the fuck. What kinds of guys are we going to find there?
Yeah. So that's the off season.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. And free agency.
We'll do that show another day.
Right. Yeah, that's for another time. Yeah, but anyway, I think that's pretty much it. I think we can wrap up there.
We did another long one again.
Yeah.
We said we weren't going to do it.
But here we are.
Fuck.
All right. Well, comments that, you want a shorter show next time, or you want us to keep our promises for once. And Tell us your favorite part of this 90-minute show, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.